Hey, this is Brandon Crawford from the San Francisco Giants, and you're listening to Torture Cast.
You're listening to a podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants.
Let's go, Giants!
With hosts Willie Dills, Chad King, Ben Lee, and Eric Nathanson. Dedicated to the greatest team in Major League Baseball, the San Francisco Giants. This is Torture Cast.
Standing on time, not gonna stop. We came to play, ain't slowing down. Falling on, we're here to stay, and we're stomping on whatever's in our way. I'm feeling like a Giant tonight.
It's Friday, November 15th. Wow, my birthday's in 2 days. How about that? 2019, and this is episode 187 of the Torture Cast, the podcast by and for fans of your interesting San Francisco Giants. I'm your host, Chad King, and joining me from Georgia once again, might be a different locale in a few months, however, is Eric Nathanson. What's up, dude?
Not much. Who knew we'd have so much Giants news just all of a sudden in 1 week? Like, we have the playoffs, we have the offseason, no manager gets named, and then boom, Monday. What is his name? Scott. I forgot his name already.
Harris.
Scott Harris. Yeah, Scott Harris gets named general manager, and the dominoes just all of a sudden fall into place for the Giants in the last few days. It's been quite an interesting week. We have a whole different organization to talk about all of a sudden.
Yeah, we said last time, and it was just a week and a half ago, hey, we'll probably record after a manager is named and, periodically when things happen. But boy, everything happened in the last 48, 72 hours. So we said, all right, we need to get on the horn here, and we got a lot to cover today. But let's just go ahead and start with the elephant in the room. The Giants did name their new manager to replace Bruce Bochy, and it is the pick that you and I, and to be honest, most Giants fans did not want. But the Giants decided to hire Gabe Kapler, and boy, does he come with a lot of baggage, and we don't have to explain the sexual abuse story behind it all. You do your own research, and you can come to your own conclusions, because I've heard rational thoughts on both sides. I have, and I don't think, just like most of these, there's so much gray area. There's no right or wrong answer, but it's how you feel about it. And some people take the objective approach of, he didn't do anything illegal. He didn't do anything to that person. So why should he be in trouble? Why should he not get a job? And he should get a second chance. While other people are saying, no, what he did was inexcusable, even if it wasn't illegal, and he should not be helming the reins of a major league organization. So I fall in the latter camp, not vociferously, but I'm disappointed by the hire myself. That said, I'm trying to get this out of the way right now. This is speaking nothing of his baseball intellect or his managerial skills, even though in Philadelphia he was fired and he had, just a under 500 record with a pretty decent roster, and he managed that bullpen pretty poorly. That said, a lot of managers have come in their second and third jobs and done just absolutely fantastic. So that's not the reason I didn't want him. I don't understand why Farhan Zaidi, who has his previous relationship with Gabe and wanted him more than anything, clearly, as after he was hired and after the press conference, he wanted him and no one else, even though they hired other people, or I should say interviewed other people. And one of the interesting questions during the press conference was, okay, it's fine that you wanted Gabe Kapler. That's understandable. But you just said that all of these other candidates were just as qualified, and they were right there, and it was a really tough call. Well, still, why would you then, if the margin is so close between all of these candidates, why would you choose the guy knowing he had all this baggage, knowing the PR nightmare that you were going to have on your hands, and knowing how the majority of Giants fans were going to react? Why would you choose him? And he truly believes that he's the right guy for the job. And I guess he's willing to put up with all this, Eric. I don't know why. I don't know if they're like best buds or something else, or if I was GM and I hired you because you're my friend and I worked with you in the past. And yeah, you had this thing that, happened and maybe you didn't handle it correctly, but it wasn't anything wrong or bad and everyone will get over it. I'm going to hire you anyway. And then everybody blows up in your face. I don't know. I'm just really shocked by it. I really am.
Yeah, I'm disappointed as well. Only because there's just not the necessity to bring this kind of baggage on to the next manager of the San Francisco Giants. It's not worth the hassle to have all the extracurriculars, all the past, all the things that media and fans will talk about that are the skeletons in Gabe Kapler's closet. And it makes it feel like you said, it's it's a boys club almost. It's like Farhan came in and said, okay, I'm going to bring my guys in, and it's changed the complexity of the organization, probably complexion of the organization in such a way that it just seems like it's now being run by Farhan. It's his show, no question about it, and it's his to sink or swim with. And bringing somebody on with baggage has to be worth it. And like you said, second and third time managers do sometimes come through. Bruce Bochy was. Joe Torre was a third time manager when he was with the Yankees with those rosters. So sometimes retread managers can catch on and learn and do well, but you do wonder about the extra baggage. Espada could have been named as, I think, probably a competent managerial candidate. I don't know who else would have been out there. They mentioned there was somebody else, the Rays bench coach was mentioned at the end.
Katara.
And yeah, I've no idea why that he couldn't just give a new manager a chance at that point. Like, Giants fans would have been fine with a new manager. It did not have to be somebody who'd proven himself. I don't think we would have had any problem with that. I think we'd be talking about a fresh new organization, and excited about it if it was somebody like Espada or Kataro, instead of Gabe Kapler. But because of the baggage and because of the past relationship, it's Farhan's ship, sink or swim at this point. And I just wish there weren't all these questions around the organization. I wish we just had a manager and we can go forward and talk about baseball instead of having to acknowledge the fact that he mishandled things in the past. And the one thing I don't like is the press conference started out with apologies. And you just don't want that out of your manager introductory press conference. And then later he referenced that he talked to his mother and he learned some things. And while that's well and good and appreciated, Gabe Kapler, I talk to my mother about plenty of things, and I don't think she's the authority on any of them. It's just doing the right thing just takes doing the right thing, and you can hope he does that going forward because they're going to have to win games this year. I think that's the bottom line.
I totally agree with you. He has a 3-year contract, and Zaidi has 4 years left on his contract. And, winning is going to be the salve to this situation for most Giants fans. Certainly there's always going to be the extreme that literally won't watch games this year, won't spend a dime on tickets or merchandise or anything. I'm sure there's going to be a small minority that keep to those promises, and that's going to have zero effect on the bottom line for the Giants. But it's going to take time for a lot of us who don't feel like he was the right choice to just immediately jump and buy into this decision, especially considering how the roster looks like it might be shaping up here, and we'll get to that in a bit. And
I think that's the thing is we don't really know what the roster is yet, so I don't think we have any clue what kind of manager Gabe Kapler can be just yet. Like, Farhan and Gabe are the center of the show now. Even Scott Harris got pushed to the side.
And look, I unless something insane happens this offseason, this team is destined to be under 500 again next year. And so I don't think, manager's not going to change that no matter who we hired. And, if it was still Bochy, it would still be under 500, just like it was the past 3 years. So I get that. But that said, if people don't see winning right away, they're going to call for Kapler's head much more easily than they would have with another candidate, in my opinion. And you can't expect any manager to take this roster and be above 500 next year. So I don't think it mattered who you chose, but I think the magnification of his baggage on top of a losing record this year is going to increase the volume of, calling for him to be fired. But, I don't think he's going to be fired after a year. My guess is that it's going to be a 2-year run. He's going to be 2 years like he was in Philly, and then a decision might be made to either, kick him to the curb if the social, repercussions are just way more than they ever thought, and he has a losing record. Or if everything kind of calms down and they let him go into his 3rd year and then go from there. But it's It's tough, and I am very surprised, especially after Espada was reported to have the lead, but then in the last few days, then it was re-reported that Kapler had the lead again, and it was just kind of a, oh God, no, don't do that. So
Well, you have to wonder if like Espada was in the lead, and then the longer it went, was the longer Farhan got to make his argument to get Gabe Kapler hired. And it's not like the Giants, and that's the thing that's just I think that's so making Giants fans, we're all taken aback, is the Giants don't make moves like this. Like the biggest move, Barry Bonds, I think, would be the biggest like shock kind of move that, he didn't have baggage when they got him, but you know what I mean. They don't really make waves in the baseball world and do things like that, and they don't bring extra things on. They just kind of go about their business, and they're one of the tentpole franchises. So it's tough to understand why they want to bring that kind of new baggage and questions and answers. It's tough as a fan. Can you separate the things that you think about with Kapler from the manager himself? Like, are we going to be able to do that as fans? Like, I'm not sure yet. I just don't know. It's going to be I think we have to watch first and see. It's tough. I said from a baseball standpoint, I don't think it's horrible, but it's tough to take that human element out of it, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to. And it might take watching a month to half a year of baseball under him to see where this thing's really going.
I'm sure my feelings will calm down in the months and year to come, but I still feel at this point, not that he's a bad person, not at all. I don't believe he's a bad person. I don't believe he did this with malicious intent in terms of not reporting it to the police and trying to handle it in-house. I do believe that he sought legal counsel in the Dodgers organization. I do believe that they gave him advice that he followed. So he just basically saying, look, I did what the policy said in the Dodgers organization, and I followed that policy, and I didn't do anything wrong. And
Right.
Technically, he's correct. And Farhan was a part of that as well. And he didn't have this kind of controversy when he was hired, which is the irony of part of the situation, by the way.
Yeah, I'd never thought about it at that time. This is a CYA situation for Kapler and Zaidi to an extent. It's all about covering his own ass. He did talk to, pretty much the people that he needed to talk about covering his own ass. And then, things didn't flesh out the way they probably should have from there. And
they have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, and I get it.
Right.
Everything's covered from their side. And Major League Baseball has since, after 2015, put in a different policy that is completely different than what they did in 2015. That said, I still, as a human being, as an ethical person, I cannot believe that he did not go to the authorities and he tried to handle this all in-house with a dinner and some money, a check. And I that just screams dirty to me. That just screams, we don't want this to get out. That's what it screams to me. Let's protect ourselves. Let's protect the players that are involved here. That's what I'm bugged about. Yes, they checked all the boxes. They didn't do anything illegal. But everything they did to me was immoral. And that is part of the judge of a character. And even if he's a good guy and, he does charities and all these other great things, that's fine. In that situation, I'm just appalled by the lack of action that the Dodgers and he specifically and others took in the organization. And I know we've learned about it. We've talked to all the people in the community who are more sensitive to this, and we've learned our lesson, and we know that now this is not how it would be handled. Major League Baseball has revised their policy. Now we have to report these things. Fine. But it was 4 years ago, guys, not 40 years ago or 20 years ago. I mean, 4 years ago. Come on. That's not,
It's a big risk.
It's a huge risk. I know that, if in my workplace, if I knew that someone was abused, I wouldn't be like, okay, guys, let's handle this inside. Maybe we can get the person to come to dinner. Maybe that's crazy to me. That's insane.
Yeah, it was
to me.
Weird. It was really weird.
That's my issue with it. A lot of people are still like, oh, it's not a big deal. He followed policy and all that stuff like that. It's like, yeah, when you know something's wrong, you know something's wrong, and that was wrong. And, I don't think he should be crucified for it. Not at all. Maybe there's pressure from the organization to keep this, and he was just following orders. But at the same time, I don't think someone should be managing a Major League Baseball team with that past.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
As a fan, it's just one of those things. Like, I get that he was going to get another job, but why couldn't he have taken a year off, and why couldn't it be another team? Why did it have to be my team? You know, why did it have to be us? Yeah, and it's frustrating because, as I said at the top, it is a completely different organization than we've ever seen in our lifetimes. It really is. To have it be, in essence, I don't want to say radicalized, that's too strong of a word, but it's radically different than any other, under Sabian, under Evans. It is clearly Farhan, and then it'll be Gabe Kapler's show. It's a different vibe coming out of the orange and black right now, and I think it's going to take an off season. I don't want to say I'm cringing. I'm preparing for a not good offseason. Like, what if players don't want to sign with the Giants now? Mm-hmm. I mean, do they care about whether or not Gabe Kapler is the manager? I mean, I've seen current players on the Giants come out in support of it, and Longo was a teammate of Kapler's, and therefore I get why he's totally behind it, and I know he'll play for him. And that's the thing with Kapler. He's so loyal, to make the indiscretion that he made, he'll be loyal to certain things and certain players on the Giants team. So it makes for this is like, I can't remember a year with so much uncertainty in my entire adult life than what we're heading into right now with the new Giants season.
I think it was Susan Slusser or Ann Killian asked him about, and they were point blank. They actually used the word. Do you think that, some people think that you're going to be a puppet to Farhan? I mean, she literally used that word, and I was like, whoa, check that
Gloves
out.
Are off from the beginning.
Gloves are off. And I think it was a little bit of disdain for the man is why she was so cold and so just blunt with that term. But, he kind of was like, you tell he was a little taken aback by the question. And he's like, oh, well, that's a good question. But, certainly I have opinions and I make them known. But I also welcome input from the front office, too. But again, I'm not afraid to express my own opinions, and I'll show my colors and be argumentative. And he was kind of playing both sides of the coin, I felt. Like he was saying, I value all the input from the front office, but I'll argue things too. And it's like, yeah, you didn't really answer the question. He was dancing around. So it's Farhan's guy. And, as Giants fans, we're going to have to live with it. And some people are totally fine with it. But social media is not an accurate reflection of the entire population of Giants fans. I understand that. But at the same time, I think you could easily classify the majority of Giants fans on social media as being completely against this hire. And I wonder how that is going to translate as we go through the months of the hot stove and into spring training. How many of those fans are going to kind of go, whatever, this is the guy we got, so let's just support him. To people who, some of our friends, I won't name them, on the podcast, who are like, that's it, I'm done. This is inexcusable. And how many of those people will actually still commit to that statement. I think it'll be interesting. I don't think it's going to have a massive impact on ticket sales. I think ticket sales were already down anyway, and they're going to continue to decline this year. So I think there's going to be some issues. I don't think there's going to be a 50% reduction where you're going to go, oh, this is because of the Kapler hiring. I don't think that's going to be it, but there's definitely not people who are. The majority of people are not excited about this hire. Let me just put it that way.
This for you, and then we could probably move on from Kapler and talk about some other baseball things. I think this manager, he was born in July 31st, 1975. Are you older than the current Giants manager for the first time in your life?
Yeah, I'm older than the manager, the general manager, and then, of course, I think everybody's older than the assistant. President of baseball operations, Farhan, just turned 43, 3 days ago?
Yeah, something like that.
And then Kapler's 44. I'm going to turn 46 in 2 days. And then Scott Harris is 32.
Yeah, I'm older than Scott Harris. That was a weird part, too.
So, no, I'm officially older than everyone involved in baseball on the field and in the front office now, which is really depressing. I was hoping that... Big Slick. Oh God, what's his name? Pitcher for the Mets. Old guy. Oh my God.
Old guy.
Name is on the tip of my tongue. Oh,
Is he
God.
currently pitching?
Big Sexy. No, he's been out for
Bartolo
a year now.
Colon?
Bartolo Colon, thank you. He was the only Major League Baseball player older than me while he was still playing. And then he didn't get signed by anyone last year. And so now I'm assumingly is out of baseball. So he was my last lifeline to to say,
it's weird.
Someone's
I
older
figure the
than me
next
in Major League
regime,
Baseball.
I'll be older then. Like the Scott Harris, 32-year-old from the Cubs. Like his hiring, I thought the week. We'll come back to the Will Smith and Bum in a second. I thought the week started out really, really strong with the Scott Harris hiring. I really felt
I was fine with that.
Good about this. The guy really worked his butt off between working for the Cubs and how he got into baseball with the help of former Giants general manager Al Rosen, how he wrote every team letters and he just tried to get in the door right away. And then when he was working for the Cubs, he worked his way up to assistant general manager while simultaneously going to business school.
Northwestern,
Right. And he was apparently taking like Saturday classes and humping red eyes to get back and forth like during spring training. And good on him. He's got a good work ethic. That's why it was just the very next day Kapler got hired and the whole week shifted. And I thought it started off great with the Harris hire. It was so good. And then now like he totally got lost in all of this. Like it's turned into the Farhan and Kapler show. And now Harris is just kind of this kid sitting in the middle of it. And I don't mean to call him a kid. I'm sure he's obviously smart and a hard worker, but like, what is his role now going forward? Like, is he the one going to be making decisions or is it Farhan?
It's going to be weird because he had no decision in hiring Kapler. He did meet him before the announcement was made, but he had no input whatsoever, and he said so. But, I agree with you. I like the kid. He is a protege of Theo Epstein. He wrote letters to all major league clubs in his 20s. Al Rosen took him under his wing and helped him out. He's worked his way up. He's obviously an analytics guy. He got his MBA at Northwestern, like you said, doing the red eyes back and forth on weekends, worked his way up to assistant GM with the Cubs, and everyone speaks really, really highly of this kid. He also grew up in Redwood City, so he's a Bay Area native. However, his father was a Cubs fan, and his mother was a Giants fan. I should say is. I'm sure they're still alive.
Wow, that's funny.
And so it was split in the household, and so his brother grew up a Giants fan. He grew up a Cubs fan. That the parents split the sons in terms of their fandom. It was like so bizarre. I don't know how you do that, but that's how
I can believe it. I live in a split household. I can totally see influencing certain younger minds on which teams are the better ones. I wonder if that means each kid was closer to that certain parent. I can totally see that because I'm literally a Giants Cubs split household.
Yeah, you're the same way, right? So it was just really interesting to hear. And so he said, when he was working for the Cubs and they won the World Series, he got a World Series ring for his dad. And he said, now I got to get a ring for my mom. And I thought that was pretty cool.
So cute. Yeah, that's good.
So like I think everything points to this kid being a good hard worker. And knowing his stuff and burning the midnight oil. So I'm fully confident in his abilities. And so far we've given Farhan a very good grade during the 2019 season, dealing with a limited roster and flipping it over 1 billion times and finding the right plug and play guys off the scrap heap and in the minor league system. And I think he definitely improved the team over the course of the year with very little resources. That said, this is the first huge question mark as far as I'm concerned that he's pulled, and it makes me very concerned. I don't think Gabe Kapler is going to tank the team or make the team a lot better. I think managers don't have that much of an impact on the play on the field. Again, the Giants haven't had very many managers. Bruce Bochy, 13 years. Felipe Alou, 4. Dusty Baker, 10. Roger Craig, 8. That goes all the way back to 1985, right? And then you had brief stints by Davenport and Ozark, Robinson for 4, Dave Bristol for 2, and Altobelli for 3, and then Bill Rigney for 6. That goes back to basically my birth time, but I didn't start really following the team until Roger Craig. So he's taking over this storied franchise that has very low turnover, especially in the last 30 years in managers, and he chose this guy. And It doesn't scream one of these previous 4 or 5 managers that we've grown to love. I don't see that happening with me.
Yeah.
And
I'm looking at this list. Yeah, I'm looking at this list and I see Kapler 2020 to 2021 or something like that on it in a couple of years when we're doing the same broadcast talking about a new manager. Like I see him as one of those 2 and done possibly on the list. You know, there's 4 managers in history that were 10 years or more: Dusty, Bochy, Bill Terry, and John McGraw. And I just don't see Kapler fitting into that long-term kind of plan.
And Bochy was the second longest tenured Giants manager behind John McGraw. Of course, was 31 years. I mean, he was a mainstay here, but Bruce Bochy at 13 was the second longest ever. So, and of course, the 3 World Championships. So, big shoes to fill for Gabe Kapler. He knows it. They've tried to apologize. They did that whole that press conference was freaky weird. Everybody was talking about it. And I know, guys, Buster Posey was physically there in the 3rd row. He said he supports the hire. He talked to Bochy. He's going to talk more with Bochy. Kapler is.
Yeah, apparently.
He's gotten Bochy's endorsement. So, you know, I know they've thrown out, obviously Longoria on Twitter was like, yeah, this is great, because they did play together. And so I know there's a baseball fraternity. And I understand why a lot of the players are going to be behind him, because he was an ex-player. He's younger. He played with some of these guys. He's a smart guy overall. He apparently cares a lot about people, and I believe it for the most part. You know, again, I'm not saying he's a bad person. He just made a really poor judgment that I think disqualifies him from being a manager in the major leagues. That's all I'm saying. But, you know, they're going to move on, and I think he'll have the clubhouse. The clubhouse will be fine. I think it's just the PR machine. It's going to be the public and the fans, and see how this thing develops. It's going to be interesting, but certainly nothing where I'm going to boycott covering or going to games necessarily. That's not my view. I'm not that strong in terms of some of these people, but I'm very disappointed. That's all.
Yeah. And then we the thing, like I said, there's no long-term outlook because we don't know what the roster is going to look like. Just this week, they had Will Smith and Bumgarner qualifying offers out there. Yeah. And while we all expected Bumgarner would decline he's talked openly now about exploring free agency. Many media members following the Giants have commented that they talked to him about that in September. Will Smith didn't accept his qualifying offer, and he went to his hometown Braves for 3 years and what was it, like $40 million? $40 million. Yeah, and I didn't think he'd come back. We talked about maybe him coming back during the year, but he wants to play for a winner. He's in his prime as somebody who can be the anchor on the back of a bullpen, and he'll totally take Melanson's job when he gets there, which is fine. And he's going to go home and try to win with a team that's far more talented than the Giants are right now.
Well, I mean, look, the qualifying offer was $17.8 million, and they definitely considered it. But per MLB Network's Ken Rosenthal, his agent Jeff Berry used the qualifying offer as leverage. He told teams that his client would accept the qualifying offer if he were not signed by Thursday. So they used that as leverage because Will Smith was happy in San Francisco, and obviously on an average annual pay, he's getting less with the Braves than he would have with 1 year with the Giants. But now he has a 3-year security, right? Guaranteed money. He's playing for his hometown team, and he's playing for a contender. So even though he would have stayed in San Francisco, basically he must have communicated with his agent, look, I don't want to linger the entire offseason not knowing where I'm going. So, and maybe they talked about this strategy. Okay, well, you got an $18 million offer you can sign right now. Why don't we just communicate with everyone, hey, if he's not signed by Thursday, he's signing with the Giants. And that kind of spurred the action, and the Braves hopped to it. And, you know, look, good for Will Smith. It was a smart strategy, I would say, by his agent.
Yeah, it's a good move.
It was a good move. And he's now knows where he is. He can move his family or go back to where his family was living. I don't know. And be with his hometown team and know where he's going. And he's getting paid $40 million for it. So, I mean, I think that's fantastic for Will Smith. Unfortunately, it's bad for the Giants because now they lost their 2 recent closers, both to the Braves. They trade Melancon, which of course was fantastic. We all still love that. In fact, Scott Harris said that was the trade that he was most impressed with while he was working for the Cubs. He thought that trade was, quote, striking. And I think most of us said, yeah,
That's
the Braves
a
got
great
screwed
word
by that.
for it too. Yeah, because like all our eyebrows went up when that trade happened. It was like, wait, what now?
Yeah, what now?
Like that is a one of those. It just made Farhan. That's part of why you're right. We bought into Farhan so hardcore.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
Farhan's a smart guy. And so, I mean, maybe he knows something that we don't. But anyway, so yeah, he declined his qualifying offer, was signed by the Braves. And then, of course, officially, Madison Bumgarner did turn down his qualifying offer yesterday. And so he's officially a free agent. And right now, the interested teams are reported to be the Padres, the Phillies, the Yankees, and the Braves. That's what I've heard. So we'll see what happens in the offseason. He has been stated to say in the last day or two he does not want this to be a Dallas Keuchel situation where he rejects and looks for the highest contract value and doesn't sign till the mid part of the season. That's not what he wants to do. So we'll see if one of these teams throws a big chunk of money at him. But I do think personally that contract will wait until guys like Garrett Cole are signed, because that's going to set the watermark, I'd say, right? I mean, if Bum signs first, he might be underpaid, kind of relatively to what Cole gets paid. Does Bumgarner deserve what Cole gets? No. But if Cole just shatters the bank, then Bum's, minimum offer, I think, rises.
All right, so dream scenario here. If the Giants sign Cole, does that give Bumgarner a rise to maybe come home and keep playing with the Giants?
You never know. I mean, it's not a done deal. The Giants certainly still can throw a contract offer at him and see what happens. But we both know Farhan is a numbers guy, and his numbers have been declining. And and if they signed Cole, there goes the money, right? So they're not. I just don't think that Bum's not coming back to San Francisco, guys. I think that's probably a 98% certainty at this point.
That's what I was going to ask you to put a number on it. I was going to go 5%. Yeah, okay, you got 2%. I was going to go 5% on it that he'll be back with the
Definitely
Giants.
Single digits. Yeah, low single digits. So
but I'm not even sure that.
Stranger things have happened, but I think when he tipped his cap in the batter's box, which was unusual for him, he was saying goodbye. And he knew Bochy was leaving, and if Bochy was still managing, I would have said much higher chance. But he also doesn't like the number situation, the number game, and now he knows that he's got everyone's analytical on this team now in terms of the manager, general manager, and president. So, yeah, I think he's moving on. But
that's a good observation.
It's going to be sad, but I think, look, that was their closer, who was an all-star, their only all-star, and their ace. And they've lost, most likely, I should say, have lost both of them. And I know we have Johnny Cueto coming back fully strong, but this is some big holes to fill in the offseason, Eric, let alone the bats that they need. So this is going to be tough.
I think we're going to have to devote a show during the offseason to looking at what they really need, because this roster is definitely going to get peeled apart a little bit in the meantime. I mean, we talked about on the last show the pickup of Tyler Anderson from the Rockies, the pitcher. And I'm sure there'll be other moves like that going on throughout the offseason. So we might be identifying, outfield, starting pitching, first base, if, something like a Bell trade happens or something like that. We could be identifying a lot of places the Giants need to get some new faces in there. But, what's interesting about the whole Kapler hire is Ron Wotus and how he's staying. It didn't blow me away, but
it didn't blow me away, but...
All right,
yeah.
Thank you. And I guess that's kind of an endorsement. You know what I mean? Like, if he's going to stay on and willing to work for this guy, and the Giants want him on even under all this new management, that says a lot about him. But you even wonder about him as a managerial candidate. But you would think that somebody like Farhan would not want to keep somebody from a previous regime as the manager. But to keep him on staff like that, Wotus, 33rd or 34th year, he's going to be with the organization now. He's the longest tenured coach in Giants history.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't that? I heard that nugget the other day. I know he's been with him forever, but I didn't realize it translated into that perception there, or that fact. Now, I heard a little sound clip from Ron Wotus, and he was interviewed by Chicago, New York, to be their bench coach or third base coach. And they asked him, why wouldn't you take that job? They're better contenders, and maybe it'll give you better exposure in a big market, which could translate into a managerial job, blah, blah, blah. And he said, yeah, I recognize all of that, and I interviewed because I wanted to see what was out there. But I have so many roots in this city. I love the city. I love the people of the city. I love the team. I love the fans. Like, he was just going off. It was like a love fest. And he's like, it just in the end, I think this was the better situation for me. And it is surprising. I mean, I didn't think that he was going to stay with the team because of the massive changes in. I know Farhan was there last year, but just the massive changes and the rollover. First of all, I didn't think the Giants were going to offer it, let alone Gabe Kapler, but they did. And I kind of sat back and started to think about, well, from their point of view, why would they have offered him the job? Certainly they might have known that he wanted to stay because of all these opinions he was, putting out there in terms of loving the city and everything like that. But I do think it's a good bridge for Gabe Kapler because Ron Wotus, he can lean on for just all of the institutional knowledge that he brings, all of the history, the relationships with the players, the anecdotes he can share, the lessons that he's learned. He can translate all those stories and all that information to Gabe Kapler and maybe give Gabe a bit better data set to kind of go with in terms of, making decisions with the lineup or how to handle players in the coach's office or something. I don't know. I mean, I know if I was coming in to be the manager of the San Francisco Giants, and would I clear all decks? No, I would probably want someone who had some experience to kind of an oracle to talk with, some sort of wise person going like, hey, look, Brandon Belt's struggling. I want to talk to him. What do you think I should, how do you think I should approach this? And then Ron Wotus would be like, oh yeah, great question. Well, and he could offer some advice. So I think it's a good decision, and I'm glad to see him stay.
It's funny. I was looking. I had no idea who Gabe Kapler's bench coach was last year, and it's some guy named Rob Thompson. It's not Robbie Thompson. It's some guy named Rob Thompson with just an M, no P in there. And he was the Yankees first base coach back in 2006, and then Girardi named him his bench coach. And then last year he was hired to be Kapler's bench coach. And as we know now, Kapler was fired by the Phillies, and Girardi was hired by the Phillies. Right. So Rob Thompson is staying on as the bench coach, but he apparently does not have anywhere near the knowledge that a Ron Wotus would have. And I kind of love that at least there's going to be a connection. We're going to still see Wotus out there. It's going to make Kruk and Kipe happy during broadcasts. It's not a completely different team. It is, but it isn't. And it's nice to have the familiar face because, Bam Bam going to the Marlins. Wasn't there some other coaching? Hergis, I think, went somewhere as well.
Yeah, Hergis went somewhere. Yeah, I can't remember who, but he left.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and they haven't announced all the other coaches that they're going to be bringing in, so we're going to have to wait for that over the next few weeks. Right. So Oracle Park is undergoing some changes. It's interesting. It's a little bit in between of what I expected. It does look like the bullpens, because they were already scraped off the field. They showed video of that. It looks like some of the bleachers in right center are being removed. And so the facts/rumors have it that the right center field area, that fence is going to be moved in by only several feet, maybe up to 8 feet, to accommodate both bullpens in that section. And they're going to lose about 400 seats. However, they most likely will add a couple dozen seats down the lines and extend out where the bullpens used to be. So that'll bring some of those fans a little bit closer there. So overall, it'll be a net loss in seats, but not a big percentage in terms of the park. Less than 1% of seats are going to be lost. So I'm fine with it. They're going to keep Triples Alley. That's the bottom line. 421 looks like it's still going to be there. So that's, again, gonna I both like it and hate it. I like it because I love the park and I love the tradition and I love the history, and I don't want it to be a bandbox. But at the same time, you're going to have trouble attracting some of the big free agent hitters, I think, like Osuna and Rendon and others. So anyway, interesting to note that they're going to keep most of the park intact, but at least safety-wise, it'll be better for the players.
I'd be fine with 421 becoming 412 or something like that. That'd be fine.
Yeah,
right?
Just a little bit, right?
Right, not much. Just so a few of those balls eke out over there.
Mm-hmm. You don't get those Brandon Belt triples and then see him slump his shoulders going, oh, it should have been a home run. And it's like, well, yeah, should have been. Sorry. It is what it is. Okay, well, let's talk about the end of the year awards. I think it's pretty interesting. Let's just start with I'll take the managers and the rookies, and then you can handle the others because you kind of contributed some of this on the IBWAA. Okay, so we have the AL Manager of the Year, Rocco Baldelli from Minnesota. The NL Manager being Mike Schilt from St. Louis. Rookie of the Year in the NL is Pete Alonso, the Polar Bear, 53 home runs. I think that was kind of a no-doubter. And then you had in the AL, Yordan Alvarez from the Astros. So those were, I think, fairly expected. I don't think that anything was a shocker there.
Yeah, I didn't like the Schilt. I note here on my IBWA Internet Baseball Writer Association award picks, I picked Dave Martinez before the playoffs even started, and the Nationals won the World Series.
Yeah, I think
Dave
that's
Martinez,
a really good call.
Yeah, he was my Manager of the Year because of the 18-31, 19-31. I've already forgotten it now, because it's been a week and a half.
It's been pounded into our head.
Right, I picked Dave because of that turnaround, because there was literally talk of him being fired, and then there his team was, and at that time, I'd felt the Nats made the playoffs with ease. Like in the last few weeks of the season, there wasn't any doubt that the Nats were going to sew up one of those wild card spots. And so that's why I thought, I get why Schilt, because the Cardinals kind of came out of nowhere as well. You expected the Brewers or the Cubs to do it. But I like the Rocco Baldelli pick, too, because Minnesota just comes out of nowhere. And, Yordan and Pete Alonso, they're the new generation of sluggers. That's expected.
They are.
And then the Cy Young was, again, a Met, just like Pete Alonso in the National League, was Jacob Degrom. It's his second. He won in 2018, so that's last year. Hello, Eric. And then in the American League, Justin Verlander beat out his teammate Garrett Cole. Justin Verlander won the American League Cy Young. It's also his second time, 2011. He's finished second 3 times in his career, 12, 16, and 18. So apparently he can only win it in odd years. And the 8 years, 11 to 19 between Justin Verlander's Cy Youngs is the longest stretch for any pitcher in Major League history, which I thought was a neat little stat. The NL MVP,
it shows his longevity as opposed to, because he's 36 or whatever right now.
Right.
Look at, Tim Lincecum winning 2, but he burned out. Matt King didn't win one, but he burned out. Like a lot of these pitchers burn out early, and Cy Youngs don't. If they happen in multiples, which is rare, they happen very close to one another. But he's shown his longevity in the game, and he still is not slowing down. The guy's incredible.
He threw a no-hitter this year, and you talk about multiple Cy Young pitchers. Jacob Degrom, here was another funny one. I think it's 21 wins Verlander had this year, and Degrom has had 21 wins, I believe, over the last 2 years combined.
Yeah, because he plays for Nats.
Right, it's just such a difference. Like they scored some 2.1 runs a game for him last year or something when he won it in 2018, and it's something else because for all we know, Degrom could hit a wall here all of a sudden, and he could flame out and not have the staying power that somebody like Verlander does. I think Verlander's a Hall of Famer, and I think
now he is. Right now, he is. Yeah.
I think the Cy Young just solidifies it, and I thought that was a fine pick. That's exactly who I picked for both those awards. And the National League MVP was Cody Bellinger, the Dodgers. Boo, in the sense that it's a Dodger. He's the first Dodger MVP since Kershaw in 2014, and the first Dodger position player MVP since Kirk Gibson in 1988. So apparently,
since
Dodgers, they should have won it all this year because of Bellinger. I voted for Yelich. I thought what he had done for the Brewers was enough, and it showed because the Brewers collapsed without him in a sense. Even though they lost just the wild card game,
Well, he missed 3 weeks of the end of the season, or was it 4 weeks?
Yeah. It was 3 weeks. It was the same amount of games as the American League MVP, Mike Trout. They literally finished they missed the exact same amount of games, and I felt like because I also like Trout as the pick there, and it's his third. I thought if you're going to do that with Trout, I feel like Yelich was that valuable and that good in the National League. Bellinger had a bit of a drop-off, it seemed, I think, after the All-Star break, and that's kind of where I went with that.
He did, and I think if Yelich had finished the whole season, he would have won it. Because the vote was also very, very close. It was only 18 votes or something like that, or 18 points. It was really close. So I think if Yelich had played and hit, another 3, 4, 5 home runs and another 15 RBI, he absolutely would have had it. And then in the American League, Trout had built up such a lead. Like he was the clear-cut MVP when he went down. It was like, he's still going to win the MVP.
his best season ever. It seemed like he was on
45
pace.
home runs, yeah.
Right. Like he never bashed the ball like he did this year. So it seemed like it was a foregone conclusion, even though he was mired on yet another bad team, that he was just head and shoulders above everybody else in the American League. And I felt that way about Yelich.
That vote was actually relatively close too with Bregman. I don't have it right up in front of me, but I know it was within 20 or 30 points. It was, within 5%. So, it wasn't like a by the nose of his face, but it was pretty close.
Yeah. And I thought it was funny in the NL MVP voting, Hank Schulman threw a 10th place vote to Pilar for MVP. And he named all the reasons for Pilar leading the team and at bats and driving in runs and, certain clutch situations for a team that, won more games than expected and didn't score many runs. So he was a very large chunk of the percentage of run scoring for the Giants. And you would only see that if you're watching West Coast baseball. And I just thought it was funny that Hank did it on his BBWA vote. And I did the same thing on my IBWAA vote, just because I felt the same way about Pilar. Yeah. Like, this was a big chunk of a season. He was valuable to a team like all year long, between Dick coming up and Yastrzemski hitting his hot streaks and Vogt being on fire at times for himself. The constant all year long was Kevin Pilar, and he deserved his place as somebody who kind of elevated a team that did better than we expected this past season.
Yep. No, it was pretty cool to see that, and I wonder if he had something in his contract saying that he gets a bonus for having a MVP vote, and Hank gets a little chunk of that. I don't know.
That'd be nice.
Here you go, Hank. Here's $50. Go have a steak.
Good theory. I like that.
You never know. It could be the next
a nice watch.
The next controversy in Giants baseball.
I like that. That's brilliant. I could totally see it. They recorded a podcast together, so I mean,
never know.
Right? He's the Willie Mack winner.
That's right. No, it'll be interesting because, he's up for arbitration this year, and so we'll see how that develops. But it looks like Hank wants him back. But, no matter all of those intangibles and tangibles that you talked about in terms of his production value this year, he doesn't have a lot of the basic analytical, high watermarks like on base percentage and low strikeout and all that stuff like that. So he's an analytical kind of guy in terms of his
walkers,
production.
And he's not a walker.
No, not at all. And they like fewer strikeouts and more contact. And he's definitely a lot of strikeouts, swinging out of the zone, all that stuff. So anyway, as far as Gold Gloves, it's interesting because the Giants generally have at least one, if not two, Gold Glove finalists, if not winners every year. And this year they didn't even have a single finalist in the round of three. So not even a Brandon Crawford. But of course, he did have a much worse year than he typically has. He still made
Buster could have made time.
I thought Buster could have been there, but clearly he wasn't nominated. Yeah. So we're not going to go through all 18 of those. You can look that up. No Giants though. They weren't even in the finalists. All right. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about today, unless you have anything else to add,
this is perfect.
Is going to be about the Houston Astros, and there was a report coming out earlier this week about an ex-pitcher for the Astros in 2017, Mike Fiers, who is currently with the Oakland A's, and he was reporting an incident because he's afraid that certain young pitchers who get, hit pretty hard early just after they're called up may never get a chance to pitch in the majors again. He said he's concerned about the careers of these young pitchers because he was part of a team-wide strategy to steal signs electronically in 2017. And this is how it went. Basically, they had a closed-circuit television camera in center field, only at Minute Maid Park, that they could control, that was wired directly to a monitor that was sitting in the hallway just outside of the dugout. And sitting there would be a couple of team employees on massage chairs or benches to kind of, if anyone went down there, it's like, oh, we're just watching the game. We're doing massages and stuff. We're totally doing work. And they had a garbage can by them. And so they had instant feedback from the video because there was no lag or delay. It wasn't the network broadcast. And if they saw an off-speed pitch, they would bang on a garbage can. Sometimes it was once, sometimes it was twice, and that was because it was off-speed or curveball. But sometimes they just limited it to one bang for an off-speed. And that would echo through the dugout and onto the field. And even though many people report it wasn't really perceptible by the crowd, the batters are focused on hearing that sound. And so they hear it just mere moments before the pitch is delivered, but it's just enough time to tell a batter, is this coming at 95 or 87? And that is all about baseball, guys. Yeah. There's some people I've been reading going, I don't know why that's a big deal. Like, who cares? They don't know where it's going to be pitched exactly in the zone. It's like, oh my God, timing is everything. That is
100% everything.
That is it. You can adjust your swing up, down, a little bit inside, a little bit outside, but it's all about the timing, everyone. If you know an off-speed pitch is coming, you time your foot, your hips, your arms, everything to that pitch. The whole point of pitching is to upset the timing of the hitter. That's it. That is like 99% of pitching, because it doesn't matter how hard or soft you throw. If you can regulate that and your zone, accuracy to a good extent, you're going to dominate guys like Greg Maddux and other guys who didn't throw hard, right? Or Charlie Huff with a knuckleball or whatever. Point being, that's gave a massive advantage to the Houston Astros at home games. And this is now confirmed for 2017, and now, of course, there are allegations for 2018 and 2019, including the most recent playoffs with the Yankees, who claimed that they heard whistles going on. So, before we talk about this, I just want to go ahead and play a clip, and there's many more clips that have started to surface over the last 24 hours. Basically, you can go back to MLB.com and look at game archives. And, of course, these are unedited. No one's put in these sounds on MLB.com. Why would they do that? Major League Baseball's not doing that. Because I've already seen some Astros fans going for these edited clips, particularly this one I'm about to play, like, oh, he could have added those sounds in. That's totally edited. And people are just blasting those fans with links to, like, dude, here's the archival footage on MLB.com. They clearly wouldn't have put that in their own video and incriminate themselves, right? That's not happening. This is raw sound. Granted, it probably sounds different than if you were live at the park, but it is loud enough for the players to hear. So I know you can't see this, but I would definitely suggest you go ahead and look up this video. I'll put it in the show notes. It's from John Boy Media, and it'll come right up because it's already got 1.2 million views in the last 3 days. So Here we go. It's 2 minutes.
Now have a lot of allegations and confirmation that the Astros were using a video camera to cheat and steal pitches. And opposing pitcher Danny Farquhar, don't know if I said that right, he said there was a banging from the dugout, almost like a bat hitting the bat rack every time a changeup signal got put down. I found the footage. Let's watch it. Here we go.
He has since used.
Bang. That one was very slight, but he takes the changeup. Now Farquhar looking good. Let's see. Fastball, no bang at all. Takes it. Next pitch. There's the changeup. Bang, bang, takes it. There was the off speed. Now it's like, wait, what? What's going on here? Now look. Fastball outside. So quick, 2 signs. Geared up for the fastball, fouls it off. Next pitch. Changeup. Bang, bang. That sequence is so upsetting. There's no way that is done without technology. How fast they get the bangs after the sign goes down. Watch it again. It's so fast. That's, just upsetting. Now they try to do sequence. Outside fastball. No bang. Tries to foul it off. And then steps in again. Call for the changeup. Bang, bang. And Farquhar steps off and says, can you hear it? He's like, hey, they got the fucking signs. We got to change this. So he goes on. This is super upsetting. I love tip pitching and finding someone's tell and all that. This is happening so fast that it has to be done with a camera, and it sucks. Now they come back. He throws an off-speed pitch. There was no bang there. He gets him out. This is shitty for baseball. It's shitty for the Astros. And it's shitty for A.J. Hinch, who had the most pompous quotes looking back. The Yankees said they heard whistling in the dugout, and Hinch said, it made me laugh because it's ridiculous. Had I known it would take something like that to set off the Yankees, we would have practiced that in spring training. Well, you've been practicing it for years, and it's true. And you knew it was true, and you sound like a pompous dick now.
Ha! That's it's funny. The Hinge quote is somebody using the truth to try to divert and make it sound like a lie to lie about practicing something like that. At first I'm with John Boy. At first I'm totally good. Steal signs if you can see it and if you can relay it in a way that's not using technology, which is against the rules. Totally good. Go for it. You know, it's hard to do things like that in a split second, but the Astros were clearly getting the pitch data quicker than anybody I've ever seen in any, because the signs usually have to come from somebody on second base, whereas in the Giants' way back history, apparently from center field somewhere. But there's no way the noises should come from the dugout. And it to me, from watching the videos and listening for the bangs and seeing how the hitters are balanced on those pitches, even when they take those pitches, you know, if you know a breaking pitch is coming and you're taking the breaking pitch, you know which kind of movement it's going to have. So you can identify it earlier coming out of his hand and see if it's going to hang out of the zone, or, you know, if it's going to go into the dirt. If it starts at your knees, then you know that breaking pitch is going to drop into the dirt. So it's not even a swing that you have to be balanced on. You have to be balanced to take it, just like any other athletic achievement. You want to be balanced when you are performing your athletic, you know, sport, and it helps the hitter. And I don't know what they do from here, but I absolutely think the Astros cheated. It really is what it sounds like.
Yeah, so there's many more videos that are being compiled by people, and if you want, you just go to MLB.com, look up probably most random home games on, you know, at the Astros in 2017, and just listen to a few at bats and see if you can hear those bang bangs. I've done it and I've heard it. And it's amazing because I'm thinking to myself, how the hell did we not notice this before? How did someone not go on the TV broadcast, hey, what are these bangs part of? But the whistles that happened during the 2017 World Series against the Dodgers are, I think, much better because they're blended in. It's a one of those kind of things, and it's called a charge whistle. So, you know, do charge, right? So it's just, and everyone's cheering, you know, when Clayton Kershaw's on the mound, and you got different Astros that are up. So you hear a lot of cheering and whistles and everything else, and then you hear this very faint, and that was for every single changeup or curveball that Clayton Kershaw threw. And there were a couple of them that were hit for home runs. One of them was a 3-run home run that tied the game in game, I don't know what it was, 2 or 3, or I can't remember. You got to go look it up. So it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. It's all timed up. It's all there. The evidence is there. So Major League Baseball, of course, is investigating this. And I don't think there's any reason they're not going to come to the conclusion that the Astros cheated in 2017, and perhaps in 2018 and 2019, because the Yankees have accused them of whistling in the same manner during the ALCS, which of course went, you know, was that 7 games or was that 6 games? Anyway, point being,
this year was 6.
But in 2017, it was 7. It was 7.
Yeah. And the home team won game
all
in
7,
series.
exactly.
Yeah.
And someone was pointing that out, like, they lost by 1 run each of the first 2 games in New York. Then they won by tons in it's the opposite way. They won by 1 run, 2-1 and 2-1 in the first 2 games at home. And then they lost by like 6 and 4 and 8 in the 3 games in Yankee Stadium. And then they won the last 2 games as well back in Houston. So they're kind of leading some support to that. I don't care about those particular numbers. I do care about the great difference between batting average, record, OPS, all these stats between home and away. And granted, it's always going to be, usually, I should say, it's better at home than away. But their splits are pretty dramatic. And I know people are going to point to the World Series this year and go, well, then why did the road team win all 7 games in the World Series? Well, hey,
Karma.
You know, karma, or maybe they weren't cheating in 2019, or maybe, who knows? But of course, the Yankees said they heard it in the ALCS. Point being, it's an interesting story, and this is, I think, way worse than Deflategate, because they're just talking about balls, right? There's a huge difference in your whole lineup knowing if it's going to be a fastball or an off-speed pitch every single at bat. That's insane. That's a massive advantage.
It's a difference of 20 points in on-base percentage. Here are their home-away splits. Their on-base percentage is .362 at home, .343 on the road. Batting average, 284 at home, 265 on the road, 20 points again. Slugging percentage, 516 to 476. So their OPS is 878 at home, while on the road it's 819. And they hit 12 more home runs at home than on the road. They were 60 and 21 at home, 47 and 34 on the road. And I found this interesting. They only grounded into 63 double plays at home and 82 double plays on the road. And that goes back to me talking about hitting as a balanced hitter. You're more likely to ground into a double play if you're off balance and you catch the ball off the end of your bat and roll it over or something like that. If you don't know that the off-speed pitch is coming, but if you do know the off-speed pitch is coming, you're less likely to roll into that double play. And I thought that was the interesting number to me, is that when there were runners on base, the Astros seem to not ground in double plays as much, and that's a big difference of 20 as well. So all the stats bear it out that their home splits are better, and I know that. For every team, usually their home splits are better. We can't use the Giants as an example because our team hasn't scored runs in what feels like 15 years. But it's drastic when it comes to the Astros.
No, it really is. So this is going to be a developing story over the next month or longer, and we'll see what happens. It's not going to be like college where they take away national titles, but
No, they're not stripping them.
Major League Baseball can impose fines up to $2 million on a team, which is whatever. That's not that much for a team. But can suspend players and people and managers and can take draft picks away. So I think that's where this is headed, because this is more than one player, a.k.a. Barry Bonds, taking steroids. He still didn't know if a fastball or changeup was coming. And to me, knowing that is way more than being able to hit a pitch, an extra 50 feet. That's my opinion, because we both played baseball. And I tell you, man, if they said, we're going to inject you with this steroid, that's going to make you so strong you can hit the ball 50 to 75 feet further. Or we'll tell you before every pitch if it's going to be a fastball or a changeup. I'd be like, option 2, please.
Yeah. Even though it's a split-second thing, you have enough time as a hitter to adjust what you're doing in the box. It really does give you the time.
Oh, it's just incredible.
I totally agree.
I think this is a massive story. And what's interesting is the report that came out. It wasn't The Athletic. It was one of the other magazines, I believe. Ken Rosenthal was on it, I think. It's the fact that they're only saying the facts so far, that Mike Fiers and Mike Cotaro and others have said this happened in 2017. Now there's evidence to support that. They're not saying anything about 2018 or 2019. They're also not saying that they're the only team that's done this. So maybe there are other teams that have done this. But the fact is that this is, wow, this is crazy. This is crazy. I think people don't think it's a big deal, but it is a massive deal. This is a huge cheating scandal.
The truth with baseball is, as long as it's been going on, people have been trying to find an edge, and they will skirt the rules if possible without being found out. It really is. It's pushing the boundary of what they can get away with, and the Astros went past that boundary by doing something that is explicitly written into the rules now, that electronic sign stealing and using electronics cannot happen, because all those iPads are in the dugout now. Mm-hmm. And so, they're constantly looking at video, and that's got to be recorded stuff. And even the TVs up the clubhouse tunnel are supposed to be on an 8 or 18-second delay or something like that.
Well, they instituted in 2018 the 8-second delay because of rumors of cheating in 2017 that were internal because of the Astros. And so they instituted a mandatory 8-second delay to make sure that they weren't using the network broadcast. But that still didn't prevent the Astros from using their own closed-circuit, instant delivered, camera in the Minute Maid Park. So anyway, point being, this is going to be an interesting story, and it looks like they broke the rules, and it'll be interesting to see the punishment. Now, what's really sad about this is that I was a fan of the Astros in terms of they were perennial losers, and I didn't really care either way about them. But to see their farm system built up and the way the GMs managed them over the years and their draft picks and building it all up with Altuve and Springer and Bregman and getting Cole and all these guys, and they finally won the World Series in 2017, just like Sports Illustrated, guessed in 2013 or 14 when they were a shitty team. And it was all these great stories, and they beat the freaking Dodgers, Eric. They beat the Dodgers.
It was fun.
To now understand that they may have taken a World Series trophy away from the Dodgers gives me incredibly mixed feelings about it. Because it's like, oh, those mother bastards, oh, well, the Dodgers didn't win that year, so maybe that was a good thing, right?
I don't feel bad for them. Yu Darvish came out and said that he sucked, and it wasn't like the Astros were just beating him. He said he sucked. There's no difference. The difference would have been him pitching better,
Isn't it incredible,
I give Darvish credit for that, because people are trying to say the Astro sign stealing shattered his career. And,
no.
He bounced back beautifully this year. He pitched great in the second half. So it's kind of funny that they think it was that much power. And I mean, it's the Dodgers. So, you kind of shrug your shoulders and say, oh, that sucks that it happened to that team.
Yeah.
If it was any other team, we'd be more outraged. I mean, not outraged, but whatever.
But they beat the Dodgers, so maybe 2017 was okay. But they've been kind of this model of how modern Major League Baseball teams should be run, and I've agreed with that over the last 3 or 4 years. They've been incredible. But then, of course, you have the Osuna issue. Like, why the hell did you sign a guy that's been accused of domestic violence and all this shit? And then, of course, the assistant GM going in the clubhouse and yelling at female reporters, "We're so effing glad we signed Osuna." And, of course, they dismissed him, but that was after saying that didn't happen. And that the female reporters were lying about it. And then, of course, they said, oh, sorry, I guess they weren't lying. Okay, we're going to dismiss him. We apologize for that. But, I mean, all these things that are happening are really tarnishing the Astros' reputation. And they're becoming like the New England Patriots. They really are. And on top of that, Eric, and one thing I haven't touched on yet, is the fact that everybody, we know it happened in 2017. That's just an undeniable fact with the evidence that's now there. Because no one has edited these videos, and there's no way it's going to be off speed every time there's a bang, and that's just coincidence. Of course, it actually happened. And with the corroboration of a player said this is how it worked. It was bang, 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 and that's what you hear. It's the fact that all the players knew about it, Eric. All of them were in on the scheme. They're all in on the con. From the manager all the way down to the 25th player, and whoever the massage guys were, or the analysts, or the employees that were sitting on the massage chairs banging the garbage can. And so obviously many other people knew about it, including the front office and employees and other people. So this is a very big cheating scandal. And I respect guys like Jose Altuve and Bregman and Springer and Garrett Cole. Well, I know that's this year. Maybe that's not proven yet. But they're players that I really respect and admire that are on this team that were knowledgeable and participated in this cheating scandal. So what's the punishment going to be for them, if any? Like, I think everyone should be punished, not just AJ Hinch, not just the general manager, not just the Astros organization, but I think the players that willingly participate in it should be punished too. But how do you do that? You can't suspend the whole team. That doesn't work. No. So what do you do?
On them. Yeah, all of them. There's just unbelievable stink.
Yeah, because Jose Altuve, he's like, oh, the little guy, the one who's come, and obviously he's supremely talented. It's not taking away any of his talent, but maybe just like a steroid user, you take away some of his numbers, or at least that's the perception, right? He wouldn't have hit 5 additional home runs, or maybe he would have hit 20 points lower, or maybe whatever, because he knew, just like other players, that a certain pitch was coming. And it really depresses me. It really depresses me.
The deep dive on Springer would probably be very telling, because he seemed to really thrive in the leadoff position this year and able to jump on pitches and yank him into the Crawford boxes.
Right.
And so I wonder if Springer would be a key if somebody were to do a deep dive on his at-bats, because I could see it's the beginning of the game. There's nobody on base. You're going with a catcher-pitcher combo. You're going with the standard 1, 2, 3, waggle finger, whatever you're going to do. And so anybody who's looking for the signs wouldn't have to even decipher a set of signs. They would just know right away, 2, 3. It's off-speed pitch, something like that. And so the banging would happen, and then Springer probably, he homered to lead off a Astros game like something like 9 times this year or something like that. So I wonder if he would be a real key to see that, because that's the simplest and most perfect time to be stealing signs.
Oh, man. So I don't have the quote in front of me, but I was listening yesterday on the radio, and MLB has already announced they've, of course, launched their own investigation. And, oh, by the way, the Astros have launched their own investigation, too. Dude.
Excuse me.
That's like Trump investigating himself. What the
It
F?
is.
I mean,
It's
come
like,
on, man.
If you're a poker person out there, it's like Mike Postle and the Stones Casino and the cheating scandal, and the Stones Casino say, we're going to investigate ourselves for the inside cheating that was going on.
Stupid.
Relayed through an electronic system. It's the same flipping thing. It's ridiculous. They gained an unfair advantage. They really did.
Oh, that was just funny that they actually even said that. It was like, are you kidding me? Anyway, Major League Baseball, I'm paraphrasing, said that basically anyone proved to be lying in this investigation is going to be severely punished. Well, and that's what's going to be interesting, because they're going to be interviewing, and it's all going to be secret and quiet. And, we're not going to get the testimony, but they're going to be interviewing like all of the players and AJ Hinch and the general manager and other employees. And if these players, certain players are going to be like, I had no idea. I didn't know. And then other employees or players are going to go, oh yeah, he knew. Oh, that's where it's going to really hit the fan.
Would you admit it? Would you admit you knew? Like, you've played on baseball teams.
If Major League Baseball said, if we catch anyone cheating, you're going to be severely punished, and Mike Fiers has already come out, and I know there's video proving it anyway, yes, absolutely, I would admit it. Absolutely. I mean, no doubt in my mind. I'd be like, you know what? Look, we did it as a team, and we thought it would give us an advantage, and it did, and now it's out there. Yep, we did it. And then, other players are going to deny it, and then they would come back to me and say, well, this guy says that he didn't do it, and he has no idea about it. And I'd be like, dude, that's bullshit. We all talked together. We all had a team meeting, and we said, hey, you hear a bang, it's a changeup. I mean, yeah, everyone knew about it. That was the whole point. So
I think at this age, I'd admit to it. I don't know, man. Being an athlete in my mid to late 20s, I think I'd want to hold on to the idea that I am a competitive god, and you know what I mean. Like, I
definitely think most of them are going to deny it. There's no doubt in my mind. But I just think that the house of cards is going to fall, because there's no way out of the 30, 40, 50 or more people that they're going to interview all of them are going to deny it, because you have the past players that have admitted it, with Fiers and Kotaro, who noticed it. He's not a player. He played for the White Sox. But you're going to have additional, I think, ex-players from the 2017 team, including Carlos Beltran, who they're going to interview, who's the new manager for the Mets, right? And others that will be interviewed as well. So I think the net is going to be cast so wide that there's going to be one or two canaries that sing. And that's going to bring the whole house of cards down. This isn't Barry Bonds having PEDs with a couple of trainers. This is a very wide, systematic cheating scandal. And I don't think there's any way, especially now with the video evidence, that they're going to get away from this. There's no way. And for the people that lie, I think, and they're proven to lie, I think that the punishment could be severe. I just don't know what Major League Baseball can do to individual players. That's the key question, right? Like, they suspend someone for 50 games for their first PED offense. To me, this is worse than PEDs. So, but you can't ban the entire team.
No, they're going to continue
50
to,
games. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Association would not stand for something like that.
But Rob Manfred's up against the wall here. This is going to be a tough situation for Major League Baseball to handle. Really, it is. I think this is at first when you hear it, you're like, oh, they cheated, they stole some signs. Then when you really dive into it, you realize how big of an impact this has on the game and individual games and the postseason. Definitely in 2017 and potentially in the following 2 years, including this year. So, boy, this is interesting. It's going to get juicy, I think. It's going to get real juicy.
What an unbelievable, busy and full week of baseball this was in the middle of November all of a sudden. Like, we were a little over a week out. We were at the beginning of the week, a little over a week out from the World Series. And then just between the awards coming out, between Giants news dropping Monday, Tuesday, all this Astro stuff came out at the same time. I mean, who knew we'd have such a busy week of baseball to talk about in the middle of November like this? Like, this has been great. There's been a ton of stuff that went on in the baseball world over the past week, and then it'll probably quiet down shortly after this, and then people start signing free agents.
It's going to be quiet, I think, for a little bit. We'll have the Astros investigation. We're going to have the signing of free agents over, the next couple of months. So, we'll come back to you periodically. I mean, we're not going to come back if something happens with the Astros. We're not the Astros podcast, but that'll be included in any future podcast should something happen with the Giants. But yeah, if Bumgarner signs, if the Giants sign someone big, it's kind of what we said last week. We'll just come on shortly after big things happen or a series of things happens, and we'll talk about it. But boy, like you said, it's only been like 8 or 9 days, and way more shit has happened than I could have ever imagined. I mean, this is like more than a week of regular baseball that we talk about. I mean, seriously.
Right.
Oh, the Giants went 3-4 this week. It's like, okay, that's a mundane week. Oh my God, this week has been crazy.
So much happened in the world of baseball. It was nice to kind of digest it and unload it here at the end of the week. I'm glad we did this today because there was so much that went on, and it's still fresh in my mind. It just all piled up during the week, and I mean, it was an interesting week in baseball. I don't think we'll see one like it for a while.
No, not for a while. And I know that Eric and I don't necessarily share the opinions that everyone else of our listeners share. And if you vehemently disagree with us, that's fine. If you're all behind certain decisions or whatever, let us know. Send us an email, tweet us, put a comment on Facebook, and we'll talk about it. It's all good. We just have certain opinions about things, and this is a Giants podcast about fandom of the Giants, so we're going to share our own opinions, and
by fans,
I think it's healthy to
fans.
talk about. Yep, exactly. So if you want to come in with a different take, we'll be willing to consider it, ingest it, talk about it, and even talk about it on the show if it's not profanity laced and and all that stuff. But just let us know what your thought. There's a lot of people that come from different points of view and different walks of life that a lot of us don't ever consider. And sometimes there is an occasion where I'm pretty convinced about my opinion, and I hear someone's take, and it makes me change my mind a little bit. So let us know what you think, and maybe it will. But yeah, Eric and I aren't rejecting the Giants or anything like that. It's just a surprising decision, and we're going to continue on with the podcast. We're going to cover them and attend games next year, and presumably ask Gabe Kapler questions and all those things. Not about this case, just about baseball.
I mean, we're not naive. We know that personally we just have to digest and live with the news for a little bit ourselves.
Exactly.
The instant
It's been 2
knee-jerk
days.
reaction. Right. It just that we'll feel different, no matter what transpires over the next few months, but we'll just feel different as people about, certain things. Who knows? Gabe Kapler could be the greatest manager ever of the Giants, and he starts a charity that benefits, and, every, battered shelter that there's in the city of San Francisco gets named after him. I'm not trying to make light at all. I'm trying to say,
No, you're being serious.
Who knows if he starts a charity, you know what I mean? Like, certain things could happen that we just don't even know about yet, And I'm not saying give him the benefit of the doubt, but I'm just, we have no idea what direction this is going to turn, no matter what our preconceived notions may be and whatever our knee-jerk reactions may be.
Yeah, he made a mistake in his past life, and, it's not punishable by law, but, it's one of those things where maybe he'll take this into account and become even a better person than he says he used to be. And like you said, bring more attention to certain causes that we believe in, bring money, being more involved with the community. And maybe the net will be a positive versus someone who was more neutral about it or more vanilla coming in. So, yeah, a lot remains to be seen. So it's not like we're closing this out. We're just surprised by the decision, and we will just take it as it is and move on.
I'm not happy with it overall. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not the happiest. I did. But, Bochy had his homeless prenatal charity that is leaving an impact on San Francisco. That's what makes me think that Kapler could, Bochy's been in contact with him. So maybe that's something he'll impart on him. It's some wisdom. It's to tell him how to try to, make some good grace, regardless if it's real or not. I'm sure, like you said, he's a good guy and he tries to make the right decision for the right reason. It surprised me. And that's why I'm not happy with it. I'm not happy with Farhan taking on extra baggage and deciding, this is my boy, and us boys are gonna ride or die together. You know what I mean?
Ride or die, baby.
Right, that's how I feel about it a little bit, and I don't like that feeling with the Giants as a franchise. I prefer just the more feeling of stability, and I don't feel that we have that right now as a Giants fan, and that's why it's totally murky territory. It's all new to us right now as Giants fans. Probably
definitely
for
new territory for the Giants.
Our
Definitely
entire
the most
adult life, yeah.
The most turmoil I remember, the most controversy I remember, even aside from the Bochy years or the Bonds years. All right, well, that's going to do for episode 187 of the TortureCast. You can follow us at TortureCast on Twitter. Like us on Facebook. Go to torturecast.com where we post these episodes. Of course, if you're listening to this, you know where to get them. You can follow us individually at ChadK21 for myself, at 2 Out Hits for Eric. That's with the number 2. Have I missed anything, Eric?
No, not at all. Like I said, a busy week in baseball. We had a lot to talk about.
Lots to talk about. It was a good one, though. We definitely wanted to pour our a little bit of our baseball soul out there and our personal soul out there. And even if you don't agree with everything that we said, that's fine. Like we said, let us know. But we hope you enjoyed the episode regardless. Drop us a line. Let us know how we're doing. And we'll be back when stuff happens in the world of baseball and with the Giants. But until then, we'll see you in episode 188 next time. A-boom.
A big thank you to everybody for listening to the TortureCast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Follow us on Twitter at TortureCast. You can also like us on Facebook or check out our blog at torturecast.com. I also want to say thank you to Ashcon and Bailey for letting us use their song Feeling Like a Giant for our intro. For Ben Lee and Chad King, my name is Willie Dills saying, we'll see you next time.